Celebrate good times. Come on. All right. Woo! Dude. All right, so it took us a little longer than we thought. Well, we shot for like 7:30. It's 9:40.
We did.
We're still good.
Here's the thing, though. If you can't hear us,
let us know.
Because we don't have our normal audio equipment. So if you can't hear us, let us know. We want to make sure the audio is good before we get into our full rants here. So
let's see what we got here.
Can you hear? Does it sound good?
There might be so we're at Wolverine State Brewing Company. Obviously, there's not a ton of people here, but there is still some background noise. There's music playing. Yeah. There's whatever. But if you can hear us, we're just using the speakers and the microphone on the laptop as opposed to.
It looks like they can hear us great.
Setup. So we're good.
Audio's fine.
Audio's fine. Adam Molnar, appreciate you.
I just want to start off by saying, "Go Blue!"
Well, there it is.
Go Blue,
dude. All right, so Chris and I weren't hanging out obviously during the game. Well, take that back. I was down on the field with you for a quarter.
Yeah.
The credentials at Ohio State allowed me to move around a little bit. Yep. Chris came up and got some food. He wasn't treated like a prisoner.
I housed 2 hot dogs at halftime, which kept me going for the second half, which was phenomenal.
So ultimately, man, I mean, like, Chris and I were down on the field together for the first drive. Ohio State marches right down and scores. And we both kind of were like, damn it. Like, I mean, we just kind of checked what was going on. Michigan struggled a little bit. Ohio State, very methodical. Yep. And after that, it was Michigan hanging tough, playing better than Ohio State pretty much the rest of the way. You were just looking at it. Michigan was down 3 at the half, and then they outscored Ohio State
28-3 in the second half. The Wolverines outscored the Buckeyes. Now, keep in mind, Ohio State was averaging in Big Ten play about 21.5 points per half in Big Ten play. And, I think going into it, the question was, I think I even said there's no way that Michigan's going to be able to slow them down. Well, guess what? Jesse Minter and the defense, they absolutely did that in the second half. Ohio State couldn't do anything in the second half. And then, I mean, we'll get into Donovan Edwards a little bit, but I just got to say, as somebody who was there in person, who watched it take place, what an incredible game, what an incredible effort by the Wolverines. And we've talked about it a little bit. To me, that's the number 1 team in the country right there. They went on the road, played the number 2 team in the country, and absolutely beat the shit out of them. So give me a reason why Michigan's not number 1.
It's easily the best win of the college football season.
No question.
So an undefeated number 2 Ohio State team on their turf, and they doubled them up. I mean, it's a 45-23 final score. They kicked their ass up and down the field. Second half was absolutely dominant. J.J. McCarthy had his best game of the year. Donovan Edwards had his best game of the year, both of their best games of their career. J.J. accounted for 4 touchdowns. Donovan with this stat was crazy. Michigan had 4 scoring plays of more than 60 yards today. Ohio State had given up exactly 1 of those coming into this game. Yeah. So Michigan just dominated them on every level. The big play potential that we thought Ohio State was going to come out with, it was Michigan instead. And I've never been more wrong and never been more happy to be wrong than how that game played out today.
Can I say I was right? I was right. Well,
you said
I picked them to win. Yeah. 30. Yeah. I don't think anybody thought.
No.
Here's the interesting thing. On the way down, on the drive down with Brandon, I remember saying it's weird to me that people think there's only 3 outcomes that could happen today, which is either Michigan wins close, they lose close, or Ohio State beats the shit out of them. Nobody is taking into account the fact that Michigan could go on the road and beat the shit out of Ohio State. I actually said that to Brandon, and it turns out that's exactly what happened. Now, granted, I didn't fully believe that could happen. I didn't think that was going to happen. Especially after the first drive when Ohio State went down and it was methodical and they scored. But at the end of the day, I mean, just an incredible effort by Michigan. And again, I just, offensively, defensively, it looked like the most complete team in college football. And again, you do it on the road, you do it against the number 2 team in the country. Extremely impressive.
I will eat a giant bowl and plate of crow prepared in every way that you would like to prepare it. This is a thing that Chris and I also talked about today. Like, I think we do a good job of keeping it real, saying what we think, giving opinions, criticism when it's warranted, praise when it's warranted, and being honest with ourselves. I thought they would lose on the road. But at the end of the day, we want them to win every game. We want Michigan to win every single game. Sometimes I think they're going to. Sometimes I think they're not going to. And I was fucking dead wrong today. Everybody who thought Michigan didn't have a chance, and some of the players talked about it after the press conference. I think it was Mike Sainristil was saying, you saw on ESPN, like, the question was posed, like, does Michigan have a shot at beating Ohio State? And he said, they're number 2, we're number 3. Like, why is it even really viewed as an upset? Like, why does people think we don't have a chance? Well, not only did they have a chance, they took it to Ohio State in every way, shape, and form, especially in that second half. Again, dude, Jesse Minter, the defense bowed up, only gave up 3 points to that offense.
3 points in the second half to that offense.
And Donovan Edwards, who you mentioned earlier, was an absolute star. I mean, like, the coming out party of all coming out parties. His big line in the press conference, a reporter said, Donovan, why don't you take us through that long run of yours? And he goes, which one? And the room just laughed. And, dude, a 75-yarder and 85-yarder in the fourth quarter to ice the game.
I do want to point that out. Jared Johnson mentions it in the comments. Mike Sainristil.
Star.
This guy who transferred over, he was a wide receiver. Obviously, we know the story. He's on defense now. Made some huge plays down the stretch, and I can't say enough about, Jim Harbaugh talked about it in the postgame press conference about selflessness and people that are willing to do whatever it takes to help the team succeed. And Mike Sainristil, time and time again, was curious, and I think we even said it in the show leading up to this, was we thought he might give up some big plays, and they did. But when it mattered most and when they needed a guy like Mike Sainristil to come through, he just made big plays, and I can't say enough about that defense. Obviously, offensively, they did some incredible things, and we'll talk about that. But defensively, in particular, Mike Sainristil, his transition to defense from being like a guy who can make big plays on offense to a guy who's playing defense for the first time in college football to a guy who's making plays on that stage in that game, I can't say enough about him.
I've said it multiple times this year. I tweeted it as soon as he made that play where he broke up the touchdown catch from Cade Stover, who's, dude, if he's 200, he's 280. I mean, the dude is a horse.
Yeah.
And Mikey Sainristil ripped that ball out of his hands in the corner of the end zone. That would have been a massive play. As soon as it happened, I tweeted out. I said, how fitting for a guy like Mike Sainristil, who's been in the right spot all year long, has made plays all year long, has been a solid tackler, great in coverage, to make that kind of play on that stage at that moment. Jim Harbaugh praised him for it.
Yep.
Mikey even said it afterwards. He said, I gave up a couple throws today, but that's going to happen against that team. That's going to happen in college football. I just needed – I mean, he broke down that play like – He's like, he blocked and I came up and then he released late and I got into a trail position and I kind of had to catch up. The ball flew. I mean, like,
the ball floated.
Dude, he sounded like a coach.
Yeah.
He sounded like a coach. And I know Steve Clinkscale has said that about him earlier this year. That's why he's a captain. That's why he's earned snaps. That's why he's a pro. He is a pro nickelback in the NFL. There is no doubt that he can play at the next level at that position, and that's incredible because he was a wide receiver for 4 years up until this point. He's not the biggest guy. He's probably not even the fastest guy on the defense, but smart, does everything for the team, does it the right way. I don't know if he's been burnt all year. I mean, like, I don't know if any corner goes the whole season without giving up a catch.
Yeah.
But he's been as solid as you could possibly be, and I mean, dude, it was one thing after another with different guys stepping up. Mike Morris clearly wasn't 100%, but other guys got pressure on Coleridge all day. No sacks, which is nuts because they certainly rattled him. I mean, he threw for a lot of yards, but he also threw 2 picks, and he only had 2 touchdowns. And it wasn't close to enough. It wasn't close to enough from any facet for Ohio State today. Michigan absolutely took it to them on their field, and I was blown away up in the press box.
Let me say this, because we have talked about the Michigan passing game, and I know that
maybe there was a sack late. They're saying there was one
sack late.
Very late, maybe.
We've talked about the Michigan passing game, and I know specifically that I singled out Cornelius Johnson. And I remember saying, like, I don't know that Cornelius Johnson has made a big play. I don't know that he's done this, he's done that. Cornelius Johnson today, 4 receptions for 160 yards and 2 critical touchdowns. Cornelius Johnson was everything you would hope that guy would be with the type of physical stature he has and athleticism that he has. He was who we all hoped he would be. And I think it was just, man, it was a total team effort from Donovan Edwards to J.J. McCarthy to Cornelius Johnson. On the defensive side, you got Mike Sainristil making big plays. To me, Michigan, and I told Brandon this on the drive home, you win a game like that on the road, I don't know if there's a team in America that can beat this team right now. I think Michigan is the number 1 team in the country. Now, we'll see what the rankings look like when they come out, the playoff rankings on Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever the hell it comes out. But a win like that sets the tone. A win like that puts you on a path toward winning a national championship. And as somebody who's been, officially covering the team for 2 years, and as somebody who's been a fan my entire life, the fact that they are here and in this position, it's hard to hide my excitement. I lost when you're down on the field and you're shooting. You're supposed to be impartial, right? You're supposed to not act like you're a fan. I lost that again. I did it against Illinois. I sure as hell lost my impartiality in Columbus this afternoon. It was just what an environment to be a part of.
Yeah, dude, that place
was rocking at the beginning. They were silent as hell towards the end. They knew what was coming, and
I said it. You weren't in the box with me. A lot of my jokes fall flat because I don't have anybody to tell them to up there. But I tweeted it out like, "Oh, the Ohio State fans are making their way toward the exit." I was like, "They must be selling like Copenhagen half off at the press at the concession stands." Sorry to anybody out there who chews the Cope, dude. But anyway, I mean, at one point, dude, I don't know. There was like 4 or 5 minutes left when Donovan Edwards had his second long touchdown run. It was mass exodus, dude, for the exits. Everybody was out of there, and it was quiet. And then you've got Mikey Sanders still planting the flag at the end of the game. We kind of got in the mix with the players and their parents and Harbaugh and stuff a little at the end because we had to run back in and grab something that you left in your. By the way, speak to the Palacio hookup for the photographers this week where you guys were posted up at.
I mean, let me put it this way. They just don't make life easy on the photographers. I'll put it that way. We were underneath like the bleachers or whatever. It was like it's like a cave that we were stuck in.
There's like broke down like gators and 4-wheelers in there, like storage room. Anyway,
it was basically like operating out of a storage.
So we had to go back in there to get something. And in the meantime, Harbaugh's taking pictures with his guys out on the field. Yeah. Donovan Edwards is running through. He's like, "This is my stadium. This is my stadium." And these poor like Ohio State workers are just like, the roadie guys are picking up all this trash and shit, and Donovan's running through there. Dude, when you win a game like that, Mike Barrett, pretty chill guy by all accounts. Doesn't say a lot. They ask about, he pulls a shirt out. He's like, "I'm just going to lay this right here." And Mikey Sanders still same thing. Like, why are we the underdog? And
listen,
it just oozes out of you when you dominate a team like that.
Here's the thing. Out of that entire post-game press conference, what really stood out to me was J.J. McCarthy was obviously asked a lot of questions. He was asked questions about his personal performance, what this means to be able to beat Ohio State, and yada, yada, yada. The thing that sticks out to me the most was he took that divisional championship hat off. He sat it on the table and said, "You know what? The job's not done." And I know that's an ode to Kobe Bryant, what he said in the finals. But to me, that speaks to these guys are excited that they got this win, and they're going to enjoy it for 24 or 48 hours or however long they want to enjoy it. But they know full well that their mission is to win a national championship. And 3 years ago, if you had said that in Ann Arbor, it would have sounded crazy talking about Michigan winning a national championship. This team is built for winning a national championship. The fact that Blake Corum couldn't go, the fact that Mike Morris couldn't go, some of their top guys couldn't go, and they still not only found a way, but they beat the shit out of Ohio State.
Yeah, they did on their field
in Columbus.
Yeah.
I think this team is on a path towards a national championship. I'm not going to shy away from it. I think they're the best team in America, and we'll find out. I mean, they got to go to Indy. They got to take care of business against Purdue.
We'll get to that.
We know that Purdue can sometimes. I mean, shit. If anybody knows what Purdue can do, it's the folks in Columbus. Yep. Ask them. But we talked about this on the drive home. I just think Michigan is built different, and we said this. I said this on the show leading up to it. It's not just the talent that they have, the athleticism that they have, the mental makeup of this team. When Ohio State went down on the first drive and looked like they couldn't be stopped and scored right on the first drive, I thought to myself, holy shit, here we go. But that's not what the Michigan Wolverines thought.
And that place was rocking, too. Right. It would have been so easy to clam up a little bit. Young quarterback, guys playing that don't play, stars on the sidelines watching. Chris has been beating that drum all year. The mental makeup
of this team is different. It's elite. I was talking to a player parent this week about that, and I said their mental makeup is elite, and we'll find out how much it carries over into Columbus. And it turns out it carried over a whole hell of a lot. And whether it's Georgia, whether it's TCU, whoever the hell it is, I think Michigan's going to be a tough out in the college football playoff. I think that they're going to get through Indy. I think they're going to get to the college football playoff, and then good luck to any team that has to face the Wolverines because they are for real.
Wanted to point a thing out today that Chris and I talked about. I think Chris brought it up, but we had a lot of discussion about it in the car ride on the way back. Because we saw different people, like well-known people on Twitter brought it up, and we've heard some people, I think Rich from Mediascape, shout out Mediascape, so sponsor,
shout out to Mediascape,
flagship sponsor, called Chris on the way home. We were driving, talking, and he's like, can you, this game was incredible, like it looked so good, but can you imagine if Blake Corum would have been playing?
Stop it, CJ.
Can you imagine if Blake Corum would have been playing? Yeah. We both said Blake Corum not playing almost was like, I never want to say a blessing, but it kind of forced Michigan to do some things that they otherwise may not have done. And I think that's a valid thing to talk about.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I mean, obviously you want to have Blake Corum in the game because you know how much he means to Michigan, how much he means to this offense. But the fact that they couldn't rely on Blake Corum, they had to do some things a little bit differently. I think it opened up this Michigan offense and showed what it's fully capable of. How long have we talked about the passing game? And you've got to be more dynamic, and you've got to hit these passes downfield. And again, credit to Cornelius Johnson because a lot of those weren't deep through the air. He caught the ball, 15, 20 yards out, and then had to do the rest with his legs. But the bottom line is, without Blake Corum in the game, Michigan had to do things a little bit different to keep themselves in the game, and they did. And then, obviously, once they were in it, Donovan Edwards, 22
for 216 and 2 touchdowns.
I mean, this guy, he's coming back next year. He had a cast on his hand. He hasn't played a majority of the season. It's been inconsistent. Donovan Edwards is going to be a problem, not just for the remainder of this year, but next year when he's fully healthy.
I wrote an article after the game, titled it "Perfection." Chris, I said I just threw some shit together, and then I read it out loud to Chris, and he was driving. He's like, "Dude, I got goosebumps at that one part." I said it about JJ, but it was really true about both JJ and Donovan Edwards. Those two young men, those two sophomores, became Michigan legends in one afternoon of football. 4 touchdowns accounted for by JJ, 2 huge ones by Donovan Edwards, 75 and 85 yards, and he looks like a fucking stallion when he gets out. Jim Harbaugh said it after the game. He said, "When 7 gets out in the open, close the books up. It's a touchdown."
And how about letting JJ McCarthy?
He's a racing angle. Some people just look pretty and fun to watch when they run. That's Donovan Edwards, dude.
Same thing with JJ McCarthy. When you let him play his game,
he made some plays.
When he's able to go out and play his game, he looks like that dude. And I think you even said that in the article. Like it looked like JJ McCarthy in high school. The guy that we watched as a recruit,
gunslinger, man.
The guy that we were all excited about. That looked like JJ McCarthy today. We said it in the game or in our shows leading up to the game that he has to be able to be the guy that he is, and he was today.
Yeah.
He was today. And I think when this team, I don't know, man, when these guys are able to be who they are special. They are a national championship team, and could not be more excited to be able to cover them, and for next weekend to be able to go to Indy and watch Michigan take on Purdue.
You're killing me with the shaking.
And then whatever. I'll shake the fuck out of it. Whatever comes after that. I mean, this team is on a path towards something greater, and I couldn't be more excited to be able to cover it, dude. I think it's an honor.
What a 2-year stretch, dude.
12-0. How often has 12-0 happened in your lifetime?
97. That was the last time, I think, right? That's the last
97?
time. Yeah, when they won a national title. I mean, yeah. Dude, it's been crazy. And to do it, we got porn. To do it, like I said,
how long did we make it? Almost 20 minutes without porn.
Almost 20 minutes. But like I said, to do it today without those guys, Mike Morris was I don't know if he even really gave anything. I mean, I give him all the credit in the world for gutting it out. Same thing with Blake Corum. played 3 snaps, I think, carried it twice. It was clear I was still on the field actually at that point. I was like, you think Blake's done? And we both were like, he's not in. Like he's clearly not in. And then Donovan, kind of saved the day.
I think once it was incredible. It was Donovan, C.J. Stokes,
Tavi Dunlap
even came in, and then it was obvious early on that Blake wasn't going to come back in. And look, if you had told me, how many carries did Blake Corum have?
2.
Okay, so 2 carries for Blake Corum, 0 sacks on C.J. Stroud. Right?
1 on Oki got 1 late.
Okay, so 1 late.
When it was pretty much already at hand.
If you had said that before the game, none of that tells you that Michigan.
I would have thought Michigan would have lost by what Ohio State lost by.
The reverse.
Seriously.
The reverse.
That's what I would have thought.
Yeah.
If you would have said that Blake Corum couldn't play, only played 3 snaps, and Michigan didn't sack C.J. Stroud until the very end of the game, I would have thought they got blown out on that field, and they just didn't. I mean, like I said, I mean, Chris is supposed to be impartial down on the field. You're definitely supposed to be impartial in the box because it's quiet as shit up there. I mean, I'm saying stuff you just never should say in the box. I'm like, they're kicking their ass. Like, this is hilarious. Tons of Ohio State people sitting on all sides. I'm like, I don't care. It was too good. It was
very
too good.
Enjoyable.
Last thing we'll talk about as we get ready to shut her down here. We're over 20 minutes. The game against Purdue in Indianapolis. I mean, I don't know that much about Purdue. They've lost 4 times.
What's ironic is I know for a fact on multiple podcasts this week I have said quite often I forget that Purdue's even in the conference. Is even in the conference, and that's who Michigan is going to face in the Big Ten championship.
Here's what's happened. First game of the season, Purdue lost to Penn State 35-31.
Okay.
2 weeks later, they lost to Syracuse 32-29. They beat Florida Atlantic by 2. They lost to Wisconsin 35-24, and they lost to Iowa 24-3. 24-3 at home.
You know what? It doesn't matter because I certainly don't think Purdue has an answer for this Michigan team. And we'll see if anybody in the college football playoff has an answer for this Michigan team. I saw somebody bring it up. Georgia. Yeah, this is not the Georgia of last year. This is also not the Michigan team of last year as well. So,
I mean, if you say, okay, let's say Georgia was here last year and Michigan was here. Georgia handled Michigan last year. There's no question. That gap is more like this now, and I don't even know if Georgia's ahead of them. I swear I don't. I mean, when you can go into, like I said, go into Columbus, beating the number 2 team in the country when they were favored by almost 9 points by 3 touchdowns does not happen.
Right.
In the last game of the season with everything on the line, a trip to the Big Ten title, a trip to the playoff, Heisman candidates on both sides, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And Michigan changed the game today. They changed the game today.
That is the kind of win that puts you on a path toward winning a national championship.
No doubt.
When you can go into Columbus and you can not only win, but you can win in dominant fashion. And we said this on the way home, that is the hardest game I think that Michigan is going to play all year long. I think that's the toughest game that Michigan is going to play all. And I said something else on the way home. I'm not going to go into it, but they're about this long right now. They're about this long. There is nobody in the country that is as confident as these Michigan Wolverines right now.
I really wish you would just say it because the terminology was phenomenal.
I'm not going to say it, but there is not a team in the country that is as confident as Michigan is right now.
I can clean it up a little bit. It said all the Michigan players are walking around with appendages that are about yay long.
Yay long.
Yay long.
Yay
brother.
Long. As they should be.
There's no doubt.
As they should be.
There's no doubt. In fact, one of them walked in here, and that came in about 3 minutes before the rest of them did. All right. We're getting off the rails a little bit, as always. It wouldn't be right if we didn't just a little bit. But now, for your boys, attention immediately turns to, let's go back to Indy. Let's
I guess we're going to be in Indy.
Try to find a hotel room. That didn't work out very good last year. If you guys remember, we got crop dusted by some women. It was a whole thing.
Wait, listen. Last year, we were so unprepared to go to Indy. We ended up staying at a women's retreat.
Well, it was a cabin in the woods that was hosting a women's retreat.
Okay, cabin in the woods that was hosting a women's retreat with Brandon and I. That's where we stayed.
Yeah. And
so we're going to try to be a little more prepared.
We came walking out in the morning. A nice, I'm sure she was a lovely woman.
We're going off the rails.
Dropped us off an Air Biscuit on the way out, dude. On the way out, I walked right through it, and I'll never forget that. I mean, that was the whole weekend was pretty memorable, but I won't forget that. And Yeah, USC kind of running away with things.
I mean, the
against
fact that
Notre
we're
Dame.
listen, hey, just do not take this for granted. There was a time when the idea of Michigan even playing in Indy for a Big Ten championship seemed like a pipe dream. This is the second year in a row. It looks like they are now a favorite to go back to the college football playoff for the second year in a row. And let me just say this. Let me make this clear. There is officially a change of guard at the top of the Big Ten.
It feels like
the Michigan Wolverines, not the Buckeyes, the Michigan Wolverines own the Big Ten Conference. I don't care. They can talk shit on social media. They can say whatever they want to say about the last 2 years. This conference belongs to the Michigan Wolverines at this point, and it feels real good to say that.
How about that tweet, too, I had? It was like, all we heard about for a year was the flu, the snow, the weather. Apparently, in better weather, it got worse on the road. I'm like, so what would it have been like last year if it would have been 55 and sunny out in Ann Arbor? Yeah. Maybe they win by 30. I don't know.
So enjoy it.
Yeah.
This is Michigan's conference now. Michigan owns this conference now. Michigan fans have suffered through over 2 decades.
How about a quick shout out to Mel Tucker real quick?
Well, not bowl eligible.
5-7. Like I said, he's making about $2 million a win.
But he did keep that $100K.
He did keep that $100K, and he did make $2 million this year for $10 million. Sorry, this year for 5 wins.
Just feels real good to cover this team.
It's fun.
It's a joy. I guess we're gonna have to start planning for Indy.
Can we talk real quick? This is a great capper to the night. Can we talk about how dejected, sad, and shriveled the Big Nut was walking out of the stadium?
We saw the Big Nut. You know the Big Nut. This clown, this guy that he does paint his face. He paints his face. This gentleman, the Big Nut, that paints himself up, and he's like kind of like the unofficial mascot of Ohio State.
I believe he sits in the same exact
spot.
This
dude walking down the sidewalk after the game with his head down, just miserable. We saw. Yeah, that guy.
Everybody knows him.
He didn't look like that today.
He did not.
He did not look like that today. We saw people crying on our way out. We saw arguments. We saw drunken couples trying to console themselves.
There was a young man buried in his girl's bosom, dude, just in there.
I'm telling you.
Tears.
Columbus was preparing for a win, and I don't think they knew what to do with that ass whooping. And it was sadness on the way out. And all I felt was joy in my heart and spirit. And it just felt so damn good. And like I said before, don't forget it. Michigan owns this conference now. Michigan owns a Big Ten conference now. You'll find out next week in Indy. We got to prepare for it.
I didn't see any fan fights. I think there may have been at least one.
Well,
looked like a little bit of a scene. The police were kind of doing some, but no, I mean, like it. Honestly, when you get your ass kicked that bad, you don't have a lot to say. And a lot of those fans got out of there early and made their way back to wherever they came from, and it was fun to watch.
That's an interesting question. Rosie to Indy?
We talked about it a little bit.
Rosie to Indy? We're going to have to marinate on that a little bit. We got to marinate on that a little bit.
I can't wait to make these plans again.
Look how happy we are. Look at this.
You know what? We've looked like this 12 times. And that's awesome.
We have.
That's awesome.
We really have.
Because I remember last year, obviously, was an incredible run. Yeah. But we did have to sack up and do a post-game show after that Michigan State game, and we didn't look like this.
We did not look like this. No.
And so,
Scream!
Dude, are you kidding me, bro? A big 50 burger?
Holy shit!
Jeez Louise,
man. Fantastic road game by Michigan. Lots of standouts. Sainristil ball. Yeah, Skrionk, you're right. Mike Sainristil. It's not, he's not going to get the attention that Donovan Edwards gets or J.J. McCarthy gets or even Cornelius Johnson gets. Well, Mike Sainristil made huge plays, especially late in the game, to keep Ohio State from getting in the end zone, and I think that was a big difference.
I can hear you yell Skrionk on Chantel's broadcast. That's awesome. All right, we're going to pack it in now. We're at the 30-minute mark. Chris has got food to eat.
Get a little tipsy over here.
Yeah, we got a couple brewskis to get going here. Wolverine State Brewing Company putting us up out of the way a little bit, giving us full. We pretty much can just do whatever we want here. It's kind of wild, but that's
like the kind of second home.
That's the kind of hospitality you get in here. So, yeah, we'll be back on Monday. Talk about Purdue, talk about the Big Ten championship game, talk about our plans, what we're going to do. I'm sure we'll revisit. We can revisit this one for a long time because
come back on Monday because once I'm sobered up, once we've had time to digest a little bit.
Structure.
Yeah, a little more structure.
This was pretty good.
This was pretty good, but we'll have more of a structure to the Monday show is going to be good.
Monday show will be a good show. Make sure you're there. 7 o'clock. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys later.